Hi, I'm Suzanne Siracuse. Welcome to season 3 of my podcast focused on the future keys to building a profitable, sustainable, and impactful business. And I'm excited to be partnering with wealthmanagement.com on this. This series will focus on what firms need to embrace to ensure their growth and success for the future. And you'll hear from industry leaders and advisors on what is working for them. I have a great lineup of guests in store, and today I'm speaking to Liz Miller. Liz is the founder and president of Summit Place Financial Advisors, headquartered in Summit, New Jersey. The firm manages over $275 million in AUM, specializing in comprehensive wealth management for multi-generational families. The firm works with clients from all over the country who seek the personalized attention of a boutique firm. Liz is also the current chair of the CFP Board. So welcome, Liz. Wonderful to see you, and thanks for being my guest today.
Thanks so much.
Great. Well, I'm going to get right into it. And as those that follow this podcast know, I start off with the same question. And that is, how did you get to be a financial advisor, the owner of a firm? Did you dream of being a financial advisor? How did you get into this wonderful profession?
Well, I grew up with parents who are public school teachers in Ohio, so I knew nothing about this industry growing up. I had no exposure to it. But when I went off to college, I went to Philadelphia and I did go to the Wharton School, and I thought I was interested in advertising and marketing. And I know we'll talk more about that, but that's how I started as a major, and then picked up the finance. And when I graduated, I went with all my classmates to New York and to Wall Street. So I was working on Wall Street. And back then, anyone who worked with clients was really called a broker. We didn't even use the word advisor. And I certainly didn't think that was the career I wanted to get into, did not even look at it from college. I really pursued a career in portfolio management. And as a woman, I really was kind of purposeful about that because it was so objective back then, right? There were plenty of opportunities for all of us to start in the industry. But even as today, back then, really the financial services industry was trying to figure out how to evaluate women and move them along in their careers. And I thought portfolio management was very objective. Here's my results. Here's how I'm doing managing portfolios. And all these years later, we know, in fact, women tend to manage portfolios and have better results than men. And I had great results. But over time, I was managing mostly institutionally, like originally some mutual funds and then institutional money. And I was just feeling more and more like I wanted to be seeing who I was helping. I wanted to be interacting. And that eventually led to this interest in full-on wealth management and comprehensive advising, so that when I launched my own firm, I knew I wanted to be sitting across the table, today across the screen sometimes, from people where managing their portfolio might be the core, but the questions get so much broader than that. And we really could see the results of helping people.
I love that connection between like you saying, well, my results will speak for themselves. I'm pretty confident and I'm going to do really well. And that was one of the criteria of why you went into portfolio management. And then I also love that connection point of you're managing this money, you're delivering results, but you're not seeing the beneficiary of it. And that it sounds like why that led you to a profession change or extension really into becoming a financial advisor. How did I love that. And by the way, go Eagles with the Philadelphia connection. I have to always say that anytime somebody has a Philadelphia connection on this podcast, they know, everybody should know by now what a diehard Philadelphia Eagles fan I am. But in any case, and then you also mentioned that you loved advertising and marketing. And I want to touch on that. That's also the career I wanted to go into. Is I wanted to write commercials for a living, right? And so it's interesting how you can still utilize the skill sets needed, but maybe not go specifically into that profession. And we're going to talk about that now. I love going on my guests' websites and just, doing a little due diligence, checking out kind of the way that they position themselves, et cetera, to see if something really pops out at me. And I love your website for lots of reasons. And one of those is how you are very, very clear on who you best serve. So, really spelling out your ideal client, which in the marketing world is termed as personas. And then under each of those personas, you ask a question, a prompt that you know will resonate with them. For example, you serve corporate executives and you ask, you you know you could benefit from a professional or something like that, but who has the time, right? So you're addressing one of their objections before they can say that themselves, right? Which is a really, really smart way to market. I love this, and it's really a key area that many advisors' websites miss. So, did you come up with this concept? Did you have help? What was your process? And can you share this, to help some of the advisors that may be struggling with this themselves?
Absolutely. Well, of course, I have to start out with a shout out to my website design firm and amazing marketing guru who leads it, Rachel Durkin at Paradigm Marketing and Design. We've done several websites together, and she is my regular sensei for anything marketing that I'm thinking about. I just shared that I was also and originally a marketing major in college. So I do have that foundational background of understanding it, but also that huge embrace of the role it can play in business. So when I launched my own business, I certainly did, and I still inhale everything written business related, marketing related, because I do know that that is hand in hand with a successful business. Now, there are those people who are just born rainmakers, and that's not me. So I needed to make sure I was always building the whole package. And I think most people do. I think most people need to probably spend a little more time thinking about some of those characteristics you talked about, like who is your target market and how are you talking about it. Rachel's the one who suggested when we did kind of our first website together, having a client area, who are your clients? And it was a great challenge to me. Now, we to this day write all the content on our website. We just are really adamant about that, about talking about ourselves and communicating it the best way. So one of the things I always talk about with my team, because we do review it together as a team, and we even recently did a review of our clients and stuff. And I sort of always say to them, oh, get a client name in your head. And when I first wrote it, that's even what I did, which was thinking about who is that successful executive and what were they sharing with me? What were their pain points? What was the reason we knew we could help? So we start from there, and then we just keep rewriting and refining till we think we have it tight. But we always try to have an image in our mind on every part of our website about who are we talking to? Because we know the vast majority of people who come to our website are probably a referral from a current client. So if we're always thinking about as if we're talking to the clients who already love us, we're really hopeful when they send something to someone to our site, they're going to find that same messaging that resonates with them.
So that's great, and I love that you have this person that you work with, and that you've invested in having a designer and having a professional work alongside you. I think that's really important, because they can also provide third party objective advice, right? Sometimes when you're working in the business, you're a little too close to it, and so to have that
Right.
third party or that consultant come in and be that voice of reason at times. So a couple of follow up questions. Do Have you used AI at all with your writing, or do you put prompts in? Have you explored that yet?
So as a firm, we have not on our website.
Yeah.
That's all been ours, and maybe in the next go around we will. Internally, we talk a lot about starting to use AI, and we actually share a lot because I feel like one of the things that's so important for every firm right now is to be experimenting with AI, embracing AI, and also figuring out how you're thoughtfully going to use it. And I do think one of the great things about it is it's a real time saver for drafting. But I'm sure as a professional, you feel too like it's that starting point, and it can clean things up in a really great way. And of course, it catches my spelling and my grammar and where I've done something really not wise. Uh, but I think of it as the starting point. And that's what we even share as a team if we're using it. I was just working with a colleague this morning talking about an email, and they had a draft from it, and then we were together rewriting it and talking about how, well, if you went back to the AI generator chat GPT, you would need to keep thinking about how to really refine the prompt to get the final output that we really wanted. And we're all going to get better at that. But I think of it as right now a starting point, not an end point.
Yes, I couldn't agree more. And that prompting is really, really critical in order to capture your voice and authenticity. So I love that. That's fantastic. And then you also mentioned that a lot of your new business comes in through referrals, which is great. Congratulations. Is that the primary way that you're growing organically right now?
We try to pursue all of what we think are best practices. Like I said, I'm a junkie at just inhaling everything we read. My senior team and I we write articles that get picked up, we get quoted, which we're so humbly proud of and pleased to be able to have people reach out to us. So we're certainly doing continually trying to build a presence and a credibility. That way, we do some social media, though we don't do we're not trying to do huge campaigns that are like a funnel that some firms market by. But we do, because we do have a very clear niche. We know that the vast majority will come from referral some way. And one of the other things we do that kind of feeds that really is get involved in our community and organizations where we meet a lot of people who can just learn more about what we do. So I still consider that a referral where they know us, they know the particular work we do. And when they have a friend needing that kind of advice and that kind of help, they'll send them our way.
Yeah, I love it. And speaking of that community effort, um, giving back both to your community and to the industry is an important area for you personally and professionally. And this is becoming more and more of a key theme in our profession. So many very successful advisors are really that they're making that a priority. So, what are some of the ways that you are giving back, and how does it impact your business? How does it impact your team? And how does it impact your clients?
That's a great question. I love talking about what we try to do with community impact. And when I started my career, all my peers and I, one of the first things we did in New York was get involved and share with each other volunteer activities. And I think that just followed us from Penn. The culture of Penn, being in the city, has always been very community oriented. Students to this day, I know, are always encouraged to give back within the greater community in Philadelphia, and that all followed us to New York. So right from the start, we were involved in giving back within New York City, and also getting involved in professional organizations that both supported our career but also gave back in some ways. So that has followed me my whole career. And when I started growing my own firm, my team would see that I was volunteering with some organization, or I might be on a board of something. And so I do think they picked up from that and just followed it. And I was so excited when really they came to me one day and said, we'd really like to start doing some volunteer work and getting involved in the community as an entire team. And so we've been doing that ever since, from locally being committed to our local food bank, where we'll go in and help fill baskets and bags for a couple hours first thing in the morning. And, you just really see the need in your own community that you wouldn't realize, to partnering with a number of the universities around us, where we really like to get involved and visit and mentor young students. And so I think that these are both reflections and support of our culture and who we are as a firm. We never do any of it with an ulterior motive except to just appreciate that we have a successful firm. We really like the work we do, the life we enjoy doing that work. And there's just a culture then that permeates us that comes with a desire and a responsibility, I think, to give back to both the profession and the community.
Yeah, I love that. And I love that you guys all do something together. When in my prior profession or my prior job at Investment News, we started doing something with one of the local animal rescue places. And it really, like, first of all, I wasn't perceived as the boss during that outing, you know what I mean? Everybody was together, and it was less of like hierarchy or this person manages this person or whatever, what your job was. And everybody just bonded over the passion that they had for that particular charity. And it allowed your relationship to get to a deeper level, and which to me also impacted performance back at the office too. I think it's such a win-win situation, you know what I mean?
I couldn't agree more.
Yeah, and I think too, we talk a lot about, and we're going to talk a little bit about next gen and next gen talent, and how do you get and attract the next generation of talent to your firm? How do we attract more next gen talent to our profession? And by having dedicated days of volunteerism and making sure that leaving an impact is something that they know about when they're interviewing, that that's an important piece to your vision, I think is also a really is something that resonates with next geners. So you have a lot actually on your team, and there's a lot of talk about this in our industry lately, trying to recruit and retain this talent. So, what have been some effective ways in which you've been able to both recruit that talent? Where are you finding them? And then what are some strategies of retention?
Thanks. I do think pipeline and talent is so important to our profession. And yeah, my entire team really is a next gen team, which is exciting for me and keeps my life dynamic, which I love. And I don't have a silver bullet of where to find talent. I have pursued talent with most of the typical ways these days, online, people we know. One thing we learned early on, as we just had a couple people, was it's important to constantly be out there meeting young talent, mentoring them, and staying in touch. One of my professionals now is someone my senior advisor Susie McLean and I had met, you know, through a community involvement, and we had coffee with her, and we adored her, and we kept in touch. And and then when we had an opening a couple of years later, we reached out, and sure enough, the timing just worked that she had been thinking about a change. So we have made an effort internally to keep track of interns and great college grads and local people we meet in the same industry. And I think, again, that's one of those things that's a win-win. I really encourage my team to get to know others within the industry because we are a small firm. And I do think professional development comes from being able to reach out to peers and share experiences. And I know some firm owners would say, oh, no, I'm so afraid I'd lose my people somewhere else. And I just have to embrace, if you lose your people, then it wasn't the right fit, and you weren't developing the right opportunities and support for them. So I'm a big believer that you do those things and encourage them. And that has been actually very important to us, bringing in talent when we've needed it. A couple of, more than once, we've been able to go to just good people we've met along the way and have kept in touch with, and find that there's an opportunity at the time when we need it.
Yeah, and it's interesting that you brought up professional development. I was just at the wealth management, not just, it was a few months ago, the Wealth Management Edge conference, and there were a bunch of FinServ Foundation students there. They were, that are part of the program, and they're
Yeah.
aspiring financial advisors. And one young woman that I was speaking to said that the place she was interning wouldn't help reimburse her for sitting for the CFP. And I thought, what a missed opportunity, right? Do you know how grateful that person's going to be? Or you tie back, hey, we'll pay for your whole thing. You got to stay for 2 years or whatever it is. And she's going to probably end up leaving that firm because she didn't feel like they were invested in her. And again, like that mindset of the next generation, that really means something to them. And so I love that you're supporting professional development. Do you provide any kind of training as well on, like, how do they learn the ropes?
That's a great question. And I love how you talked about support. We are a small firm, and one of my soapboxes is you've got to invest in your people. I've met those people. I know the firms where they say, well, if they prove their worth, that I'll do something. I just had a young man that I got through two of the three levels of CFA, and they moved elsewhere. And I just always come back to myself and say, if I'm going to lose people or if they're going to move on, I really want to be proud that I sent on someone who has moved so far from where they came to me. And that's just how I've approached it in life. And it's come back and worked well for me.
Mhm.
We are a small firm and training can be hard to get that way. So
Yeah.
even pretty new employees, I try to get to even local conferences. I definitely support a couple of the big conferences a year. We were just talking about the fall is so busy. Do you look at Future Proof? Do you go to Impact? Do you do this? Do you do that? And I was talking to that with my investment strategist, and I just said to him, you definitely should plan on a major conference in the fall, and you choose where you think you're going to get the most out of it. I don't want to dictate to you that you shouldn't go have a great time in Carlsbad instead of going to Denver inside for Impact. I think these big conferences, Edge being one of them, I have to mention CFP Connections. I'm going. I've got one of my colleagues going there too. That world is all evolving, but there's a lot of professional development that comes from it. And so I really encourage my team to take advantage. I'm happy to support that. I learned long ago you support whatever it is in terms of certifications that interest them. And if it's not quite what I first thought they should pursue, you look and watch, well, what did they take from that? And it leads to another discussion down the road if there's something else for them to pursue in time. But we've got to be willing to invest in our talent, particularly young talent. And frankly, I think they're right to say what will come here. As an employer, I will agree, and I look for when I hire people that they've made some commitment in other places. I think we've all seen those resumes where someone was 18 months here, there, in the next place. And no matter how talented they are as an employer, you can't help but say to yourself, am I just going to be the next 18 months? And then, of course, that does leave you really questioning the investment you are ready to make.
Yeah, no, those are great points. I just was involved in a survey of the FinServ Foundation students. I think over 100 participated, and it was all about what are you looking for in an employer of choice. And the one of the things was, are you supporting my professional development, my training? Are you giving back to the community? Of course, opportunity for advancement. Some of them are even asking for equity, which good for them. Maybe that needs to wait a little bit, but even just thinking about compensation plans and strategies and how to keep people. But I think something so simple is giving them the opportunity to go to an event with you, go to Schwab, go to CFP Board Connections, go to Future Proof, and let them see and network with other next gen talent. I think is such an important thing for their own development too, and quite frankly, they're going to bring back something that you wouldn't have noticed. So it's also, to me, it helps your firm in general. So I love that you're doing that, and sounds like you have a successful strategy with the amount of next geners that you have on your team, and building some G2s there.
Yes,
uh,
yes.
so I mentioned that you're the chair of the CFP board, and also you're leading an RIA. So you have a unique vantage point. What do you think advisors and firm leaders need to focus on now to be successful in the future, because our profession and the world continues to evolve? So what would be some things that you would advise firms and advisors to focus on?
Thank you for that question. I have to start by saying first of all, I'm so proud how our profession has grown. Today more and more people are aware of how financial planning can give them confidence and even more awareness of their financial situation, and feeling like they have a way to pursue a future, with a specific steps along the way. And they increasingly will seek a certified financial planner where the education and experience requirements really give them the confidence of working with someone who is very ethical and prepared to provide great advice. So I'm proud of that. Um, Going forward, I think our firm leaders need to focus on, an ever evolving industry and profession. And like, how do you choose what's top? Is it talent or is it tech? I mean, I think those are the two huge biggies. We absolutely need to keep building our talent pipeline. And as firm owners, it's easy to be always thinking about here's the talent I need. But I think we have a joint responsibility to just constantly be getting the word out that this profession has truly evolved into a helping profession. We are not the Wolf of Wall Street. And that's what so many people think of when you talk about a financial advisor. And I think it's incumbent on all of us in the industry to continually get the word out to our peers who might change careers, and to our kids and their friends and everybody coming up that, hey, if you're someone who thinks you want to be helping people, you actually might be thinking about this industry, this profession, which you never thought about before. We've had people change from like nursing to becoming a certified financial planner. And there's more in common than you think. There's so many details to learn. There's so much to be careful about. And also, you really see yourself having an impact on helping the people. So I do think that's got to partly be number one. And then number two just has to be artificial intelligence, which I mean, by the time we finish this conversation, we're going to be out of date with it.
I
But
know.
I
It's
think firms need
insane.
to be experimenting and embracing absolutely along the way and watching the evolution. Our profession, like many others, is going to become impacted and even better from what AI can bring to us. But we also have to be constantly judging the tech and preparing our professionals and the human element. Um, I am not at all concerned that we're going to lose jobs or lose the human importance of providing financial planning to our clients. But we're going to need to constantly start testing these things and figure out how are we going to be training our new hires a little differently? How are we going to be communicating to our clients what we are using AI for, why it's helpful to them, and then the role we play on top of that? So I know it's already going on. It's going to keep going on. CFP Board is focusing on what our role should be as CFP Board in helping to understand use cases and provide advice for firms. But talent and tech, I think, has to be the two important things firms need to be focusing on for the future.
Yeah, I that's so spot on in my opinion, and I love how you did the alliteration, talent and tech. I think it's those are the two most critical things right now. And with AI, I'm working on a conference called Advise AI, and it's basically 2 days of just AI and its use cases, and it's hard to find financial planners that are really utilizing AI in a variety of ways in their workflow because it is so new, and I feel like there are still a lot of firms that are nervous about it. But you said this earlier, you've got to start experimenting a little bit and just start gathering information. And what a great project for one of your next gen employees or team members to, hey, go explore the best, tax AI tax software out there so that we can stop all these manual reviews and it can just be uploaded into our CRM or something like that. There's so many of those tools out there now. And imagine if you could just outsource that to maybe one of your next gen team members that could probably analyze the various solutions in much faster time frame than maybe those that are in my age group.
Right. I feel the same. And it's going to free them up to interpret results and then work even more on how do you interpret things to deliver the best solutions and options to clients.
Yeah, and you mentioned the CFP board really making a commitment there. I think they just released some AI guidelines, didn't they? It would there's I saw something about that.
Yeah. Yeah, earlier this year, we released guidelines from our standards point of view, helping people think through if you're using AI. Yeah, here's kind of a checklist to make sure you're still meeting all of the standards you've committed to with your CFP mark to be transparent, to check authenticity and correctness, and to make sure you're disclosing anything you can. And we want to broaden that. We brought in a working group of amazing people in the industry to start giving us advice and talk about what they see. And we hope to then, start with our ethics and standards and then come out with even more guidance and maybe even webinars along the way to help firms and certified financial professionals think about how they're using it, and how they would put it in place and what can be helpful.
Yeah, what a great resource. I think everybody could use that. I hope you start that soon. I think a lot of people could use it. So, this has been a great conversation. I'm really glad that we got the opportunity to do this. I remember running into you at a conference, the Invest in Women conference, where that's just such a great community every year going to that event. And I was like, we need to have you on the podcast. So this has been really, really great. I'm really glad to get to know you and your philosophy around your business better. So we're now at the last question, always the same, which is with the title and the theme of the podcast focused on the future, keys to building a profitable, sustainable, and impactful business in mind. What is your last line? What key takeaway do you want to leave our audience with?
Thank you so much, and thank you for including me here. It's been great to talk about these things, and yes, great to see you at Invest in Women and all those efforts to keep supporting women in our industry. So, of course, I have to talk about that a moment. But my entire career, I have said I work in financial services, which is correct, but the industry has evolved so continually, and I think that to me, the key to my own success has been willing to be flexible and to evolve at every step. And I think from our next gen advisors who are starting out to those that have been in the business with a firm, the key to really having a sustainable business is to always be willing to evolve, to be willing to experiment on the edges, and to be willing to keep adjusting your business model to what you know that your clients need and desire from you.
What a great last line, right? Don't be scared to change. Don't be scared to evolve. It's just everything is, it's scared to, you should be scared to stay the same, right? So what a great
Exactly.
last line. I love it. Make sure that you're always evolving, learning, and that's great advice from someone that's obviously been very successful in this profession. So again, thank you so much for being my guest today, for sharing your thoughts on next gen talent, marketing, and leaving an impact. I'm Suzanne Siracuse. Thanks for listening, and I hope this episode leaves you feeling even more excited to be focused on the future.